previous lesson, we've explored a very creative application of float. In this lesson, we'll still explore creative front-end solutions, but take a look at this example. This is the header used by AutoTrader. You might not think there's anything challenging here. We just need to divide this area into two levels, upper level and lower level. Then we create the two levels separately. But that, unfortunately, isn't the best solution. This time, we'll think outside the box and find a new approach. We'll treat this whole area as one. The solution is to use the absolute position. Now we've got 4 visible items here. Just like what we met in the last session, there's actually a 5th invisible item, the parent div housing the 4 items. We can see the 4 child items are actually located at the 4 corners of the parent div. We set the parent div to relative position, and the 4 items to absolute position. The parent div is now the reference object of its absolute positioned child elements. This means we can move the 4 child elements to the 4 corners of the parent div using top, bottom, left, and right. Such a design move completes the locating job. Therefore, our code can be more concise and clear. First, we create a div and assign a class parent to it. This parent div will serve as the boundary for the 4 child items. We need to set a width and a height to it. To make its range visible, we'll set a temporary background color to the parent div. The main stage is ready. Next, we move the stage to the browser center using margin 0 auto. Next, we create 4 child divs to represent the 4 child items. Then we assign a class to each child div. Next, it's time to move the 4 child items to the 4 corners. Our solution is to use the absolute position. But first, we need to turn the parent div into the reference object. We set the parent div to relative position. Next, we move item 1 to the left corner of the parent div. We set it to absolute position. Then we assign top 0 and left 0 to it. Using the same method, we move the other 3 items to the other 3 corners. Now the 4 child items have been moved to the 4 corners. Let's set a temporary background color to them. OK, here's a question for you. Div is a block tag. This means as long as you do not set a width to it, it'll be as wide as its parent div. But this is not what we have here. The 4 child divs are as wide as their contents, not the parent div. So why is this? The answer is here. All the 4 child divs have been set to absolute position. This means they are out of normal flow. Therefore, the old rules will no longer hold. Out-of-flow block elements will be as wide as their contents. This is actually a very good feature, however. You'll learn why soon. The main framework is done, so next, let's get to the details. Let's create the first navigation bar. First, we set a set of UL tags. We assign a class to it, navi-bar-1. Inside the UL tags, we put a set of li tags. Then we put the a tag into the li tag. Next, in CSS, we select all li tags and assign float left to them. Then we put the navigation bar into the first div. We can see the first navigation bar has been located to the place that we wanted it to. But pay attention to the background colour of the first child div. Floated elements don't generate width or height for their parent div. But this rule didn't happen here, so why is that? Well, the reason is still the same. The width and height of out-of-flow parent div will be the same as its contents. Using the same method, we can create another navigation bar and put it into the second div. Pay attention to the second navigation bar. There's no gap between its right border or its parent div's right border. It's very difficult to know the accurate width of a navigation bar, but absolute positioned parent divs will automatically adjust its width to the same value as its contents. Therefore, we don't need to worry about setting a width for the second child div. This is why we mentioned that this is a very good feature. The third item is the logo image with a hyperlink function. We don't need a div here. When you're displaying images using the img tag, you're always recommended to set a fixed width and height to it. This is an extra safety net, protecting your page layout. And the last item is rather simple. We need 2 hyperlinks and a span tag for it. At the end, we remove all the background colour. Now we've got what we want. For a better visual effect, there's a vertical line between each neighbouring hyperlink. Have you any idea how to create this vertical line? Most importantly, any idea how to create this line elegantly? This requires us to learn a new trick. After. After is actually a new CSS selector. We use it to add content behind the selected element. For example, we've got a p tag here, and we want to add more contents behind it. This is what we do. First, we select the p tag. Behind the type selector p, we put colon and the after selector. Then a set of curly brackets. Inside the curly brackets, we first put the CSS property name, content. The value we assign to the content property will be added to the back of the selected p tag. We can see the new content has been added to the back of the selected p tag. We've got the after selector, and naturally, we also have the before selector. And of course, the before selector will add content to the front of the selected element. After and before selector allow us to add contents from HTML to CSS. This can help keep our HTML code cleaner and more concise. For unimportant page elements, you're recommended to consider using after and before selector first. Let's go back to the program we've been working on. We first selected all the li tags. Then we add the after selector. Don't miss the colon. Inside the brackets, we set the content to vertical line. And we can see there's a vertical line behind every hyperlink. We can use margin left and margin right to create a gap between the hyperlink and the line. But we've got a problem here. The original design did not add any vertical line to the last hyperlinks. But our program has added a vertical line to every hyperlink. So how do we remove the last vertical line? We can assign a class to the last li tag. Then we assign the after selector to it. Inside the curly brackets, we put display none. And we can see the last vertical line is now gone.